doing work in media, in sustainability, in creating good work as a live, work, well, lead sort of mind space. It's really, her career was very inspiring. So I'm so excited for her to come and talk about how she came here to Dallas. So thank you for having me.
Our amazing musical artist, Bryce, is that?
Yes.
Yes.
Bryce, what's your Instagram?
It's at Bryce. Is that Bryce?
He just left. Go to work.
At Bryce Banks. We didn't say that, and that's important. Follow him. He just launched his album. So thanks to Bryce, thanks Megan for the kind introduction and for believing in me. She had to talk me into this, specifically the topic, but I'll get into that. I wanted to thank all the Creative Mornings volunteers, because as someone who's run a film festival and conference, you cannot do events without volunteers. You could if you have gazillions, but you just wouldn't have the soul. Volunteers are the soul. So can you guys give them a round of applause? And I want to make sure, I think some of my team at Good Work, because I wouldn't be standing here today, I'm kind of tied to the space right now because we just launched like 6 months ago and it's a 60,000 square foot space. Chelsea Miller, our head catalyst, she's extraordinary and I would not be standing. I call her my work wife, which is kind of funny but true. And Lexi Tellis, who's here, I don't know where Lexi is. She wears many hats. Good Work is her side hustle. She has Bestow Blooms, floral design, and works out of our space. And then we sucked her into being a part-time catalyst. Can't live without her now. And she's also a Creative Mornings volunteer. So I want to thank Flock, and the spirit of co-working is really like, someone called it co-opetition, but I don't even think we compete really in the sense of there's endless opportunity in the marketplace for co-working, and we've only reached 4% of the market for co-working. Everyone's going to work different in the future, and 50% of the world is going to be freelance by 2027. So this space, Flock, and Good Work, and all the other independent spaces are the future. And last but not least, Fernando Augusto. I don't know where he is. Fernando's back there in that amazing Stranger Things hat, t-shirt. He's at fernando.gif, or GIF, depending on what country you come from. He's on Instagram. He's helped me with some of the creative on the slides and really helps us activate our space with all kinds of creative doodles and art and brand design. So, without further ado, I just wanted to say, just to kind of break my own ice, because I'm nervous and you guys aren't because you're in the audience. I wanted to tell a funny story from this morning. I have dark circles because I haven't slept well in 2 nights, and ladies, you'll get this. I'm pulling out the eye concealer, put it on, and I look in the mirror and my eyes are all shiny white, and I'm like, what's going on? I put actual like iridescent lip gloss all over my face. That's how I started my morning, and it's really sticky. It took me like 20 minutes to get it off. So that's how I started. Okay. So I'm going to time myself because I can ramble on, and I don't want you to get stuck here. So I'm the co-founder of Good Work. I entitled this talk my intentionally kaleidoscopic journey. And you all know what a kaleidoscope is, right? It's that really cool viewfinder thing that has all these beautiful colors, and depending on how you tilt it, it makes different shapes. And there are endless possibilities, right? That's how I've always felt about my career. And when Megan asked me to speak about intention, I was a little wary because the word intention for some reason didn't speak to me other than the kind of intention you set when you're doing yoga, or if you're into prayer, you set an intention for your day. But I never thought of intention as something that you set for your entire life's work, like all of that. But as I thought about it more and dug deeper, I realized that it is a very powerful word. And it's different than purpose in the sense of you can have, your purpose may be to do good in the world or something like that, but with intention, you're getting more specific. And if there's one thing I've learned in my almost 20 years of work, it's work in life, adult life, is that you need to be specific. And I don't know if any of you read The Secret or heard the audiobook, but one thing they say when you're talking to the universe or God or any higher power, never use the word negative, the negative word, like I will not do this, because the universe only hears do this. So for instance, one time when I was driving back west to go to college, I drove through Dallas, and I was like, I'll never move to Dallas. Well, the universe didn't hear the never, it just heard move in Dallas. And so you can be setting unconscious intentions with that, and you don't even realize. So be very specific, and always stay in the positive. This is me. It's taken me a long while to feel comfortable in my own skin. And I'll tell you a little bit about that journey. When I got here about 5 years ago, I was really uncomfortable in my own skin still and didn't even realize it, even though I had like 15 years of work under my belt. And it took me a while. I thought, what if I had a mission statement? I kept doing these leadership development workshops for other people, and I've been asked, what's your like overarching purpose in your career? What's your mission? So in working with entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs here in Dallas, I realized that a lot of the founders of these amazing impact organizations were kind of hiding behind their own brand, and they weren't articulating their own mission. So I did some work on it, and it was really difficult because I've led a very kaleidoscopic journey. I have done all kinds of careers, and I've done each of them very well and gone for kind of the top of my game. But how does it all string together? Am I just like a big ADD theater mess? I've just like kind of gone with the wind, or was it more intentional than I realized? And so I looked at all the themes and threads of my career, and some of the things that always stood up were innovation, helping grow programs and develop people, helping people step into their own power, and sustainability. And that means everything from having a sustainable nonprofit or for-profit organization to environmental sustainability. Thinking about the next 12 generations and any act that you take because of how your actions affect our future. So I love this quote, whatever we plant in our subconscious and nourish with repetition will one day become reality. So it really sticks with me now that I realize how many things that I have carried with me over time and in my gut subconsciously have actually like manifested themselves because I've even like subconsciously steered myself in a certain direction, not even realizing that I was being intentional. I was born in North Dakota. My family moved to Burke, Virginia, which is a very generic suburb of Washington, D.C. area. And it was, cookie cutter, little boxes of ticky-tacky, looked like everything else. And as someone who loves art and design and individuality, I couldn't stand it there. Luckily, I was close to D.C., so I'd go out in D.C. and kind of escape. But I didn't realize that because it was such a transient community that I wasn't really ever feeling at home there because my friends came and went because they were military and diplomatic. So it was really hard to be grounded in a community when you grow up in the DC area. That's me and my little brother. I was always a creative kid, and I was always very kind and sensitive and afraid to tinker with things. I was always wanting to just kind of perfect my game and learn the most I could before I even tried anything, which is kind of the backwards way to do it, right? But I knew two things. I knew that Olivia Newton-John and Linda Carter, aka the original Wonder Woman, were my heroes. And I was thinking, like, what made them so amazing? Why did they stand out to me? Why did I want to be them? Well, Olivia Newton-John, the character she played, she always went with her gut and her heart. And Xanadu is, by the way, the best B movie of the 80s. This event was very pivotal for me. I was very young, and my parents let me go down to DC on the Metro to go to Earth Day 1990. It was the first really big one. That's John Denver on the stage, just to tell you how long ago this is. And I didn't realize it then, but I was really solidifying my life's work and intention and setting an intention right there because if I did strength finder back then, I would have learned that I was futuristic and strategic. So I'm always thinking of the big picture and where our world is going. And I knew right then that this was the quintessential moral dilemma of our time, and that if we didn't start actually thinking about future generations and taking care of what Mother Nature gave us, that we would be really screwed in like 20 years. And so here we are with climate change and all that. I don't have to tell you what's going on with that. Went to college in Arizona, got as far away from DC as my parents would let me, and then my first job out of school was New York City. It was anything but intentional. I was living back home and didn't like living with my parents after college, and got an opportunity to go for the summer to New York. Planned on temping. I ended up getting a really amazing job at one of the top ad agencies in New York, accidentally. And that sounds like a humble brag, but I was intentional about going after, I didn't want anyone to tell me that, oh, you're not good enough for like a big agency or like the top whatever. I wasn't about to just be like, oh, I'll just apply to be a receptionist. Like for me, I wanted to learn the most I possibly could from this industry. And so I became a creative assistant, and then quickly learned that I didn't fit in with the creative women, nor could I type. So they moved me over to art buying, which is print producing. And then I had to leave, so I was McCann Erickson, and then I had to leave to get promoted to go into the television department, went to Gray. Then I came back to McCann. But during that time, I somehow became the beauty girl. Like, I'm so not the beauty girl. But I was working on CoverGirl, Pantene hair flips, all of this beauty stuff, and I was kind of miserable. I couldn't fit into any of the free clothes that the models wore. But got to work on some really cool brands and learn a lot about storytelling. And what got me promoted was, as it turned out, like my first experience with intention and steering myself in a certain direction, almost unconsciously. And that was, we were in a producers weekly meeting, and no one wanted to work on the public service announcements, the PSAs that they do for free by the Ad Council every year. All the producers wanted to do the sexy stuff where they were traveling internationally, and I raised my hand. So I got to sign my very first commercial, Fire Department of New York, and it was to recruit minorities and women for FDNY. Tough gig. I had to look through like 4 years of male FDNY firefighter calendars. That was torture. But I learned about what women were facing. There were no women to even put in the chute. We had to use a female medic to pretend she was a firefighter. And they still struggle with that culture. Being inclusive and diversity has been woven into the fabric of everything I do because of that experience. I also got to scout all the firehouses and met a lot of FDNY before 9/11. So it hit me particularly hard when we lost a lot of them. EDF, Environmental Defense Fund, I did a really cool commercial for them, and I was like, this could be a thing. You know, I could actually keep true to my moral compass and not sell stuff I don't believe in, and help people tell their stories visually. So, but I got antsy, because I get antsy and bored even if I have lots of different projects. I learned that freelancers were making more money than the agency people, so I moved to LA to become a freelancer and work with some of my film school friends. And so LA was amazing. It was feast or famine with work. One thing I can say about it is I dove right in and just worked my butt off. I had to go from agency producer right back down to PA, do every job, and again, got opportunities because I was willing to do some of the less glamorous jobs and everything. But I wanted to get the most out of that experience. I ended up accidentally getting to do this string of music videos, and I was doing music videos for like 3 years. And because if you get on with a certain director and they're popular, you just roll with it. It's like, okay, there's another job, there's another job, there's another job. So I love music, and it was very glamorous but stressful. We wouldn't sleep, we did night shoots, and I would fall asleep at stoplights. It wasn't really sustainable, so that's where the sustainability part comes in. I hadn't learned how to take care of myself yet, but I was having a ton of fun. Cut to what I intentionally decided was the swan song of my music video career. Video Music Awards 2001. We were nominated for an award for Moby and Gwen Stefani Southside video that we did, and I said, all right, I'm gonna go party like a rock star, and then like try to figure out how to do something with more impact with all the skills that I already have. So I literally did that. I had a precision collision with P. Diddy at a party. Like, he came up to here on me, and we body slammed each other because I didn't see him. He was in a bathrobe. He was staying next door, and he's like, what's this party about? So he just showed up. Anyway, VMAs were amazing, but I had to leave early because I drank too much, and I never knew how to stop, and that was my Achilles heel. If you work in the entertainment industry, it's super easy to be really good at that. That can be your day and night job, and you can get away with it when you're in your 20s and 30s. I left 2 days early to go home, and then this happened. I had just moved from New York like 3 or 4 years before that, and my date and I had been walking right around the World Trade Center and across the Brooklyn Bridge like 3 days before. It turns out I was booked on one of the planes that hit the towers, and that really shook me to my core. I saw my name scrolling in the dead on the manifest. I had changed my ticket. It's just one of those flukes. So many people have 9/11 stories. I'm not telling you to get like sympathy or anything. It's just more, if I had really stopped to think about the lessons the universe was giving me at that time, I might have thought, okay, you left early and decided not to party, and it saved your life. That would have been a good lesson to learn, right? But it took me a lot longer to learn that lesson. Luckily, I heard about AFI starting a documentary film festival in my hometown, Washington, D.C., and it was a perfect opportunity to get back to my family and start something big. And as I mentioned, I'm really good. I learned I'm good at storytelling, launching things, growing things, fixing things. Here's where the sustainability piece popped up in a way that if I had not stuck with my guns, stuck with my intention, it wouldn't have happened. Here this is 2007, which is a long time ago. It's actually even miraculous that there's still a story on the internet about it, because the interwebs barely existed, it felt like. I greened our festival, and our beautiful theater was next door to Discovery Channel's world headquarters, and they were partners of ours. I had a key card to go into Discovery, all of that. We were their corporate social responsibility project, Silver Dogs, because it's all about telling important stories in the world. And I said, we're going to be the first festival in North America to green our event, because there's tremendous waste at events. And Discovery was like, well, as long as it doesn't cost more money, it's fine. And it didn't. I made it work. We got sponsors to make us carbon neutral. And a couple years later, Discovery was really excited to have that little talking point when they were thinking about launching Planet Green and everything else. We were just kind of ahead of the curve. And if I had listened to some corporate people, I wouldn't have stuck with that. I was just laser focused on my intention. I realized that community is at the core of everything that I do. So intentional community, and Justin from Flock talked a little bit about that. We need each other, and it's very important in this day and age when people are getting depressed from being on social media too much and not actually having human connections, that you find your tribe. And I've found many tribes through different careers, but now that I actually am forced to be in one place every day and make more meaningful connections with people because I'm running a co-working space, it's had a profound grounding effect on me. So don't ever underestimate the power of community, and force yourself to get out, even if you just come to Creative Mornings events and go to a couple other like co-working events or stuff like that. Fernando found this cool graphic. We are using that word a lot more these days, and I think that is intentional because we need community. This is my U.S. Green Building Council community, and I kind of got burnt out on film festivals, kind of flamed out on that, and said, what am I as passionate about as film and storytelling? And it was the environment and taking care of ourselves and nature. And so I found USGBC. They were a really progressive nonprofit that acted more like a business and very passionate volunteer force. Oversaw somehow they believed in me, even though all my experience was in advertising and marketing, to come oversee our 80 chapters. Work on repairing the relationship between the national organization and the chapters. Creating more sustainable organizations. So I had a team of consultants who we would deploy and work on anything from fundraising to capacity building for hiring an executive director. But I've never met so many amazing people in my whole life. And I did exactly what I had done at Silver Docks, which was take care of people and network people and connect them. I was just always a convener and making sure that people were feeling appreciated and developing programs to help them advance what they're trying to do in the world. This is a retreat in Snowbird, Utah, which, as it turns out, is where I first took a photo of my future life partner, Gary, who's in the back. He's the reason I moved to Dallas. So it has even more, the universe works in strange ways. I had seen a documentary at Silver Docks about green buildings, and for me, it was a powerful moment because I had asthma as a kid, and I was in the hospital and using those breathing machines and all kinds of stuff. We were a really sick family, allergies, asthma. And I learned how much our built environment affects that. Everything from our mood to actually being able to breathe. So something like 60% of the world's buildings are sick buildings. So if you think about it, we spend 90% of our time indoors. And so that's kind of important that you think about what the ingredients are of your building. I was asked by our CEO to oversee rebuilding initiatives for our volunteer force right after Katrina, because we had thousands of volunteers with expertise in green architecture, materials, et cetera, who wanted to do something to give back to help New Orleans. And so I helped support and catalyze some different volunteer engagements. We built a deep relationship with the people of the Lower Ninth Ward, from the Neighborhood Association to this work Brad Pitt was doing with Make It Right, and did a design competition, got some houses built. The whole community thing was really important to me, and I still keep going back, and I learned how to work with communities who need help in terms of NGO support, capacity building, economic development, job growth, without, I've learned how to listen. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned after Katrina, because a lot of people went in and said, we know what you need to do to rebuild your community, and they weren't even from New Orleans. So that's the flooding. This is what the schools were like before Katrina. It was called the Recovery School District for a reason. Kids were working in moldy, terrible conditions. So this issue in particular with kids is really powerful because it has a ripple effect. Parents have to stay home from work to take care of their sick kids. Kids don't feel like they have a future because they can't learn. Where we learn matters. Where we live matters. All of this matters. And I can't even explain how much this intention is now woven into everything I do. I mean, we're thinking about every single material that we bring into the building. This is a school after Katrina. We worked with the city and Recovery School District to rebuild green. So you think about that moldy stuff, and then you see this. And this girl, this is the most powerful image we have in our presentations. That girl, the look on her face walking into first day of school, when she didn't even have books that weren't moldy before Katrina, is priceless. It says our community believes in you and your future. So I hit a glass ceiling, both at my previous job and this one, and the proverbial glass ceiling. What I took out of this was, now that I can look back on it, is I would shut down if I was confronted with something where I was getting kind of either discriminated against or not being given an opportunity or shut out of like the executive team or anything like that. I would just shut down and retreat. And I couldn't admit it at the time, but I would blame it on those people. It didn't have anything to do with me. I couldn't confront that maybe I had something to do with why I was hitting the glass ceiling. So I moved to Dallas because I fell in love, and it was a convenient excuse to leave the organization. But it was the best job I'd ever had, and it was like a breakup. It was very difficult for me to move on and feel kind of pushed out of an organization where I'd given 400%. But it turned out I was hiding from my own power. I was retreating. I would be the one to convene happy hours every night because there were a lot of people who weren't happy with the culture, and they were perfectly happy to go drink some martinis with me and talk about it. So instead of finding a way to work through the problem, I self-medicated and I hid from my own power and wasn't comfortable pushing back against my boss, who was deciding that I wasn't going with the plan for the future executive team. So it's all, hindsight is 20/20, right? But I was really good at, I always thought I was doing really good writing when I would take my laptop to a bar and start writing blogs, and I'd be like, this is amazing. Like, wow, I'm so creative. I'd have to rewrite it the next day. Like, it was totally, I would have some good spark ideas, but they quickly fell apart. So I was going on this like really quick speeding train, and it all kind of came to a halt when I moved to Dallas and lost my adrenaline-based, high-powered job and had intentionally taken a risk to start all over again, follow my heart. But I had no structure. I was freelance. I was trying to figure out, get consulting gigs, and I hit my bottom. And I actually realized that in order to get any further in my life and career and to maintain the new relationship that I had for the first time in my life that was actually powerful and more of a long-term commitment, I had to look inside myself and figure out what I was hiding from and do all that tough work. So took a step back, quit drinking, got sober, and I tell you all this because a lot of people don't talk about that because people are afraid to admit that they're in recovery, and a lot of creative people are in recovery because they're so creative and smart and sensitive and know what's going on in the world, and they don't know how to process it. So they find ways to just kind of numb it just enough. Now, if you don't have the problem I have, numbing it just enough works, and you can do that your whole life, and I'm jealous of you because you can enjoy a glass of wine. But I'm not that person. So now I have to live a fully intentional, sober life, and it's more powerful than I ever imagined. And I'm telling you in public, and it's going to be on video, because that way I can't go back. I can't ever take a corporate job. They'll probably hold me against it. So I'm forced to now be my own boss and step into my own power and take risks, and that's it. There's no going back. It's kind of like getting a tattoo, right? It's kind of like getting a tattoo. It's like, if you get a tattoo on your arm, like, you're never the same when you go to a corporate presentation. Gary and I were talking about this. Tunnel vision. My career's like a funnel, and I'm funneling out all the crappy stuff and learning. And it's also like a kaleidoscope. There's no wrong way. Kaleidoscopes are always beautiful. So there's no one right path. There's a TED Talk about multi-potentialites. As creatives, we see all the infinite possibilities, and we have new ideas every 20 seconds. if you take anything away from my talk today, I would love for it to be that there's no wrong answer. It's all beautiful, no matter how the shapes and colors sort themselves. And even the most awful experiences can help you grow as a creative and help you get more comfortable in living an intentional life. And all that anger that I had about my executives from my former organizations, Gary heard this in yoga. This was their intention the other day. He read this to me, and it just knocked me off my feet. Anger is your own personal punishment for someone obstructing your vision or intention. So it makes you focus back on you and figure out what your part is. It's very important that you figure this out and figure out how to work through it, because there is no easy path to living your intention. It's very hard, and you have to stand up for your beliefs and values in situations where you really want to just kind of concede or fit in or what have you. So that's me moving to Texas. I learned about co-working when I was at USGBC and realized I could connect all the dots. Community building, helping people grow their ideas and businesses, helping women and minorities launch their dreams and have access to resources that they may not have had access to. So our purpose statement is to model and grow a responsible business culture that has a net positive impact on the world. So it isn't just about the environment, it's about impactful art, businesses, social enterprises, that we're doing more good than harm. And we're the first co-working space in the nation focused on inclusive sustainability and wellness for entrepreneurs, nonprofits, innovators, and we are powered by solar. This is one of the intention pieces that was the hardest to stick with, getting corporate real estate folks on board to go for LEED and then further go for WELL and also do solar. But we got a grant, we made it happen, and it's been a very painful growth process with getting this building up and running, and I wanted to quit a gazillion times, but I feel like I now owe it to my community to stick with it, so it's become bigger than me. So that's our building with the solar on it. We have 454 solar panels. Even in late July, our power bills are pretty low, and we haven't even gotten started on trying to be more energy efficient. We're pursuing WELL, which is kind of, it picks up where LEED leaves off. And it's going to really help with the culture piece. It's a new tool. We're going to have a fitness incentive program for people, nap room, meditation room. And it all sounds hippy-dippy, but really, like, we've got to take care of ourselves if we're going to do our best work. These are some of my favorite photos of the space. We get points in WELL for having a central staircase so that people don't take the elevator, so you're getting more steps. And this visually, what I'm showing you is going to visually show you where I've gone in this journey. This was our interior courtyard at Good Work when we first saw the building. That's after we got it cleared out. That's me kind of just taking a moment. Here's what it looks like now. And here it is with my people in it, my tribe. Some of my tribe. Building communities has been an amazing journey, and I just feel so lucky to be doing this work in Dallas and with some of you in the room. I invite you to come over and hang out with us, support Flock, let us support you. And I want to leave you with a challenge. So if anything that I've said has resonated with you personally in terms of your career or your creativity or both, I challenge you to, instead of like abandoning something that may or may not be working, think, is there anything I can do to just slightly shift it, like I do a kaleidoscope, right? Small shifts in patterns and shapes and colors, small choices of you standing your ground or that are articulating what you're all about can make a situation go from terrible to great. And you have more power than you realize. You just have to not give up. That's it.